The one on the left, the sticker on the left, and most of these, by the way, were used as stickers or posters. We would wheat paste these around the city as a way of drawing attention. The sticker on the left is "What about AIDS?" This was used beginning in the 1988 presidential campaign, because we wanted to remind people as they were voting and as they were talking about the issues that this was still an issue. Women disproportionately still are affected by HIV, and there was no research that was being done on women. Women were excluded from clinical trials because women can get pregnant, and the medications that were there, no one knew how they would react on children. So instead of saying, well, okay, you need to be part of this clinical trial, we're going to give you 2 forms of birth control, and we're going to ask you to be very vigilant that you don't get pregnant during this trial and record the data, they simply were excluded. As a result of activists, we were able to get women included in clinical trials. We were able to see how medications worked differently on women. And as a direct result of this, we were able to take the transmission rate from women who were HIV positive and reduce it down to just 3%. So that means that only 3% of children are now born with HIV antibodies because of the ability to have medication in just a few weeks of the late-term pregnancy available to the mother. And that's not just in the United States, but that's something that we're able to do globally through the what's called the PEPFAR, the President's Initiative for AIDS Response. So it's an incredible situation. It's something that is just good news. This again just speaks to the fact that AIDS afflicted a segment of the population that no one really cared about. So why should anybody be bothered about it? By July 4th, 1989, over 55,000 people will be dead from HIV/AIDS. 1989. This is a really interesting slide. It's entirely too much to read, so let me break it down for you. There were a group of activists who met in Denver, Colorado, and they put together what are called the Denver Principles. This document said that people living with HIV were just that. We're not AIDS victims, we're people living with a disease. We have the right to be treated with dignity. We have the right to be part in all conversations regarding our care, our life, and even our end-of-life care when we're ready to have this discussion. This document is the basis of a lot of the Patient's Bill of Rights that we now have that are standard. They're standard in Oregon especially, and they're standard around the country and around the world. So, where are we now? Well, there are 33 million people living with HIV globally. 1.1 million of these people are right here in the United States. There are 7,000 people living with HIV in Oregon. We've lost more than 565,000 Americans to HIV/AIDS. And this is more people than in the combined wars in Iraq and Vietnam and Afghanistan. Globally, there have been more than 25 million people who've lost their lives to HIV/AIDS. Globally, women account for 50% of cases. It's more than 15 million of our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, our aunts, our nieces. Here in Oregon, 87% of cases are in men who have sex with men. 87% of cases are men. 70% of cases are men who have sex with men. This goes to one of those conversations that's difficult to have, and especially in a place of worship. But if I may have a little bit of leniency, it really doesn't matter how you acquire this disease. And this is why it's so very important for us to have education and have honest education, that when people go to their doctor, their doctor feels comfortable to say, hey, are you sexually active? And if so, are you sexually active with men, women, or both? And to have this conversation without judgment, so they're able to screen people who are at risk. A very interesting statistic right now. I just attended a meeting this week. Who can tell me what the largest, fastest growing population for people with HIV is? Can anyone tell me? Exactly, senior citizens. Really? Really, people age 50 and over. And if you think a doctor has a difficult time talking to a young person about sex, how would you like to sit down and ask your grandmother or your mother if they're sexually active?
Particularly when you're 83 like I am.
Exactly.
Do we have Viagra to thank for that?
Well, that's a very good question. Part of it is we do have medications like Viagra to thank for that. We also have the fact that people are living healthier lives longer. They may have lost a partner, so you were in a monogamous relationship with a partner for a long time, and suddenly you find yourself a widow or widower, and you realize that there is more to life. So you start dating again, and you become sexually active. So there are a number of reasons. The other reason that's associated with this is that people who live in retirement communities or people who live in certain areas, if you introduce something from outside into a closed environment, so if somebody in a retirement community dates somebody outside the community who doesn't know they're positive and they have unprotected sex, and then that is brought inside the community, and most of us remain very sexually active till the day we die. Today we have an amazing array of products. This image is a soccer ball that is, I'm not wearing my red laces today. There are laces that are being done by Nike and by Project Red. Project Red is a global project that uses money that it raises from selling products to provide medications for people in Africa. We all have seen this yellow band, Live Strong band, for cancer research. We've done a lot. These laces, by the way, are available in Nike Town, and yes, this is a pitch. They're $4 each. They make wonderful holiday presents, and every penny of that $4 goes to provide medication for somebody who desperately needs it. Time that I've been standing here speaking, 3 people have been infected with HIV. The stigma around HIV is so great that people do not feel comfortable talking about it. There was a recent poll that was done in Pause magazine, which is a magazine buy-in for people living with HIV/AIDS, that said that 40% of most of Americans don't even feel comfortable having their hair cut by somebody with HIV. Now, I don't know what you can catch from anybody by getting a haircut, except maybe the flu. The point is that there's a lot of stigma, and this is one of the reasons that it so needs to be talked about and it so needs to be addressed. And if I may ask for a little audience participation, starting here, if I can, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ma'am, would you mind standing in the back? 1 in 5 people do not know that they're infected with HIV in America. So, I'd like to close by asking if there's a need for AIDS activism still. Well, do we have a cure yet?
No.
No. So, I think there is. Thank you very much.